Waybill, the Tubes of a brand new song called Talk to You Later on the Buzzard. Whoever it was, one of the things we did when we were in Louisville, Kentucky was we went to this thing called the Jack-O-Lantern Spectacular, which is this massive, massive walk-through in a place called Iroquois Park where they have thousands of carved pumpkins, and they have lights, and it's this very, very elaborate setup, and you're waiting in big, long lines for it. And whoever was doing the music for this thing, because this Iroquois Park amphitheater, they kind of wound you through it before you got into the forest. It's, I think, very similar to Kane Park on the east side there, and but kind of a bigger amphitheater. Whoever was in charge of the music really must have liked the Tubes, because they were playing a lot of them, and I'm digging it, but I don't know how many people were really hip to what was going on. Tubes have a song called Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, which is a tongue-in-cheek song. But I was like, oh, that's, they're just doing a Halloween playlist into that, But then a couple minutes later, I'd hear another Tube song. I go, well, that's not a Halloween song. So either somebody is doing an A-level troll with their love of the Tubes and playing it over the loudspeakers for this Halloween-themed thing. Because a lot of times, they'll be playing Monster Mash, your favorite song, of course, of the season. Of course. Or other kinds of spooky music. But whoever was in charge was, they were not hiding their love of the Tubes. Of course, listen, Fee Waybill, dude's hung like a mule. So if you have to appreciate any band to go above and beyond, why not them? I will have, speaking of Halloween, 7 Floors of Hell. That goes on out there at the Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds. 5:20 all week. I will have 4-pack of passes for you. For that, the Cavaliers are playing tonight. They're playing the Israeli Super League team. Maccabi Ra'anana is the Israeli team that's playing about half a dozen NBA teams. It's kind of their little preseason American tour. And, of course, it's especially poignant this time because of what's going on with the Israeli-Gaza situation. And so a lot of the people on this team, there's a number of Americans playing for this Israeli team, guys who didn't get scooped up by the NBA. And so it's not all native Israelis, but, some American guys who've been playing for that team for quite some time. Who's the guy? Willie Wilkerson. There's a dude named Willie Wilkerson. He came out of Tennessee Tech, but I think he plays for them. But anyway, that game is tonight, and you'll hear it here on MMS at 7 o'clock. I mentioned that Suzanne Summers and Piper Laurie died. Somebody else pointed out to me Piper Laurie was also one of the teachers in the movie The Faculty, which is easily a 25-year-old movie now. I don't know how people remember The Faculty. It had a great soundtrack. The movie was a bunch of students who slowly discover that their teachers have been taken over by aliens. And so Jon Stewart is in it. Piper Laurie's in it. Remember Usher, when he was trying to get his acting career going? Usher was in that movie.
He was also in The Mix, which was an awful movie.
In the Mix. In the Mix. And, so I mentioned that she and Suzanne Summers died, but I also got a letter from Geraldine. We know Geraldine. She's a big fan of this show.
P1.
And, P1 listener, yes. She unfortunately lost her husband last year, and now she has lost her dog. She had to put her 15-year-old German Shepherd down.
Jeez.
Her dog named Heidi. Your show takes up a lot of my brain and gets me through the worst moments of my life. Of course, a very sad year for her last year. She and her husband had been married a long time. And she said she managed to get through her work days without crying by listening to this show. In direct contrast to me, where when I'm doing my post-show evaluation, I'm always crying when I listen to what we do here.
ABC, always be crying. That's what we say on the Alan Cox Show.
Yeah, that's kind of how we do it, yes. Any chance I can get a dead dog dedication not coming back from an up-tempo record. Right. Well, that was immediately what I thought, too. But her 15-year-old German Shepherd, Heidi, she had to put down. So that's a rough couple of years for Geraldine. And sorry to hear that.
Dear Casey, this may seem to be a strange dedication request, but I'm quite sincere, and it'll mean a lot if you play it. Recently, there was a death in our family. He was a little dog named Snuggles, but he was most certainly a part of... Let's start again. I'm coming out of the record. Play the record, okay? Please. See, when you come out of those up-tempo goddamn numbers, man, it's impossible to make those transitions, and then you got to go into somebody dying. You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for, but goddamn it, if we can't come out of a slow record, I don't understand it. Is Don on the phone? Okay, I want a goddamn concerted effort to come out of a record that isn't a fucking up-tempo record every time I do a goddamn death dedication. Now, make it, and I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week. Because last goddamn time, I want somebody to use his fucking brain to not come out of a goddamn record that is that's up-tempo, and I got to talk about a fucking dog dying.
You know, it'll be 10 years next summer that Casey Kasem has died, and I think we know why.
Because those up-tempo numbers?
Those up-tempo numbers finally got the better of him. That's right. You know, that's a perfect example of a guy who's from an immigrant family, and he goes, I want to break into showbiz, and there's no way I can use my real name. I got to call myself something different. So he took the name Casey. He could have easily, you know, back in the day, radio, when he was getting going, these guys were, you know, taking, you know, they're like stand-up comics back then. They were like Mickey Lee, Jerry Smith. They had to have like a cool, you know, Boomerang Bill Franklin or whatever. His name's like, you know, Herschel Hamazitz or whatever. You know, you go,
him.
Yeah. Guys, Shotgun Kelly. All these, you know, some of those guys are still out there, but Casey Kasem was from Detroit. And he's like, I gotta make something happen here.
That was the one thing that I thought about most when trying
Was Casey Kasem dying? It's so sick, Poundcake.
Well, sometimes. But just, it was on my mind a lot when I wanted to break into radio, what my name was going to be. Like, I was like, what? Cody is too basic. It's too lame. No one's going to remember a Cody.
But you were DJ Cobra.
But that before DJ Cobra, it was Cody B.
Yeah.
It was Cody Bree, Cody B.
Cody Bree. I got that cheese.
That's right.
And then it was Cobra.
On your radio cheesemongering for...
I was Cody Gallagher for a semester. I tried all types of names trying to find myself, and it didn't quite stick like Poundcake.
Poundcake, don't you know that they won't remember you because of your name? They'll remember you because of who you are, Poundcake, and what you've brought to the airway.
Okay, Alan Slade.
Yeah, I tried that on for about a week.
What made you say,
Didn't feel
nah,
good.
not for me?
Because it was lame. I'm like, I never understood the radio name. Listen, I worked with a guy whose name was Victor Borskowski, all right? I understand why he changed his name for radio, because you don't want to be saying that all the time, you know? Victor Borskowski, nobody wants to hear that in a jingle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. But Cody Brown is a perfectly fine name.
Too regular.
Perfectly fine name. Huh?
It's too regular.
Too regular?
Yeah.
Right, but who cares? Like, you're trying to develop yourself as a personality. It doesn't really matter what you're, you know.
I guess.
Right?
Sure.
I mean, that part sailed, I feel like.
I guess I just never understood why guys wanted to go by a radio name. Like, wouldn't you want to be known for your name? You know, in the early 90s, when alternative radio was really blowing up, a bunch of guys were taking, like, one-word radio names because it sounded cool. So you're like, I'm Flea, I'm Shark. I'm like, why? You're constantly explaining to people who you are, right? You're like, hey, my name's Dave. You might know me as Bearcat. What? What? No. You want people to know your name.
I've never once had to explain Poundcake, ever.
Really? I have to explain to people all the time. Like, why do you
how you got Poundcake?
No one ever asked me why my name is Poundcake.
Well.
Nope.
But again, but they also know your name, too. right? It's not like nobody knows your name.
I'll give
That
out
would be
my
different.
government
Well, yeah,
every
that's
single
fine.
day.
And I do that on purpose, by the way. You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't solely refer to you as Poundcake.
And all your social media is your name.
Yes.
You didn't even have the courage to change it to Poundcake.
Nope. It's Radio Cody B, because that's what it was in college, I think. And I just stuck with it.
Listen, I don't begrudge anybody. You know, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit here. Bill's real name is Herkimer Fraganowitz, right? He didn't want to say that all the time, so I get it.
Well, it was just all the handles on Twitter and social media and stuff were all taken. So
Pain in the ass. Bill Squire.
I didn't want to be Herkimer Fraganowitz 93. You know,
There are 92 prior Herkimer Fraganowitzes. Yeah, I get it. It's not easy. But Bill Squire, that pops. People will remember that. Our buddy Engelbert Humperdinck is back in town. You want to get Dink down?
Get that Dink down.
He's coming back to town. I just got the
alert.
Yeah, I just got the thing today.
It was pretty cool that on Saturday I was on the same stage that I saw Herb Alpert on just weeks prior.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
Engelbert Humperdinck is going to be this Saturday night out at MGM Northfield Park.
I'm busy.
You're doing your own show on Saturday.
Doing my own show in Wadsworth. So maybe me and the Dink can meet up later.
No time for you to get dinked down.
That's what happens with performers. You go, oh, you're in town. I'm not gonna be that far from Northfield.
Yeah,
Wadsworth's on the way back, so I can stop over there and say, "What's up, you 80-year-old crooner?" How old is he?
Engelbert Humperdinck?
Yeah, he's got to be up there.
Yeah, he's, I'll tell you here in a second. He is 87 years old.
Wouldn't even be the oldest person I saw perform in the past few months.
Still dyeing his hair.
Because I believe Herb Alpert's 88.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, there you go. Those two probably came up together. They probably know each other quite well.
I'm sure they've collabed. I think he actually may have mentioned the Dink at his show.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Whipped cream and other Dink lights was the Herb Alpert.
The collaboration.
That was the collab. That's right. So, anywho. But Poundcake, who cares what your name is if you're not going to do anything with it?
You're right. I was concerned.
What are you going to do with it? Huh? He's like, I was concerned for no reason.
I was concerned for no reason. But again, when you're coming up, you have all these preconceived notions of what you think the industry is going to be. And that was one of the things. Everyone was constantly changing their name, trying to find their sound. They had their own little like shtick on the air. And I just was like experimenting with stuff. And because Cody Brown, I never felt that at that time. I never felt the name fit me. I don't know if I wanted to be known by it. So that's just what I thought. I like it. I mean, now I feel like, oh, I am a helpful Brown. But then I didn't think that it fit me. I didn't feel like a Cody. Just like I didn't feel like I was a guy from Oberlin. I didn't feel like a Cody. That's all. I didn't know if I wanted to be known by it. But
if you're from Oberlin, how come you didn't make it? How come your name wasn't Orville Berlin?
Because that's lame.
Well, asked and answered. If you listen to us on iHeartRadio, on the app over there, you can leave us talkback messages if you like.
What up, gang? This is probably going to piss off Bill, but you talk about the contented Linda Grace all the time, and I wondered, well, what the hell does contented mean? Like, why is that the suffix of a cow? Why was it contented? Please explain. I think Bill and all of us really would like to know.
Martin wants to know what's going on with contented Linda Grace. I'm not going to retell the whole story. I mean, I've told the story before about, of course, Gail Sayers, the late, great Gail Sayers, is from a small town called Wakarusa, Indiana. And as a kid in the greater Chicagoland area, we were familiar with Wakarusa, Indiana for one thing and one thing only. It was a cow named Contented Linda Grace. You know, when they in answer to your question about why was that the name, I don't know. I don't know the backstory. I know that show animals have to be registered. And so it's like racehorses, you know? When they register these animals, they register them with the names of the mother, father, and half their ancestors just to make it sound. So they called this cow Contented Linda Grace. It was a happy cow. And the reason that it was such a big deal is because that particular cow in that tiny town had been, this would have been the late 70s, had been declared the best dairy cow in the nation. And it was going on this calendar. And this was a big, big deal for a rural town like Wakarusa, Indiana. And what made it so poignant and bittersweet was that the day after the cow had been named the greatest dairy cow in the world, it died. Contented Linda Grace died, all four legs sticking straight up in the air, I guess. And so I don't know if I don't know what happened there with the Bill. Are you okay? Are you all right? Are you okay?
Is the story over? Contented the cow. Wow, great story again.
Anyway, the cow was owned by Dean Engelmeyer. This was all in the local news.
You're doing the short version.
This is the short version. Anyway, that I don't know how it got the name. I can only infer that it was because it was a registered animal, and it was. But for 24 hours, the town of Wakarusa, Indiana, had something to be proud of. They had nothing else in that town, and for one brief day, they could say, "Hey, we have the best dairy animal in the world," and I don't know what else has put
like that
them
old
on
lady
the map.
that jumped out of the plane.
Yes.
Held the record and then died a week later.
Dorothy Hoffner.
Yeah.
She sets the world record for the oldest person to skydive at 104, not even a week after she dies. Stephen Canton suggests that you could change your name to Radio Cobra B.
No, I'm not doing that.
Cobra.
All right.
I thought about that before, but it was too late. Cobra sounds better.
All right. Ask Poundcake if Casey Kasem looks like he's from Detroit. There you go. That's a pretty good question. Does Casey Kasem look like he's from Detroit?
He does now.
Uh-huh.
What Bill said.
Right. Well, there's a huge immigrant population there in Detroit. You know, Chaldeans and Muslims and all kinds of stuff. Cody Brown won Best Sports Talker, not Poundcake.
Correct.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You weren't nominated as Poundcake. You weren't even nominated as Helpful Brown. Nominated with your government.
Yeah.
I got a break here. If you want to go see comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, he's coming through, if you're a fan. And he's playing where? Whoop, hold on. I'll tell you where. Because I want to know, too. Where's he playing?
Think the Agora.
Tony Hinchcliffe. Yeah, at the Agora.